over this topic. It's the same thing. As soon as you bring up the topic, the response is, well, they stock the freshwater.
Yeah.
And they do not stock the saltwater, so that's why we're paying for a license, and they don't want to pay for a saltwater one.
Right.
But, I mean, if the saltwater fishing license could be used correctly and actually improve the fishing structure and the fish, it could be worth it, no? Okay, so as the water temperature continues just to bounce around, it's kind of getting difficult to find a decent, solid bite anywhere right now. One of the best bites is on Round Valley, and Mike Herman, Yellow Dog Paddle, is on the bite. Had over 25 lake trout on his last trip yesterday. He went fishing with Chris and Katie. They did really good lake trout fishing on a different lake, which he's not fishing right now. But Round Valley fishing is really good, even for bass. He's catching some bass, like even on accident. If you're interested in trolling, like I see Jason Uhas is getting all involved in it now. If you're interested in seeing how that's done and how all that stuff works, Yellow Dog Paddle is the perfect boat to go on and see it. Also, it's a very easy fishing for kids because they just basically have to have fun on the boat and then reel the fish in. Oh, yeah. Call Yellow Dog Paddle today if you're looking to take your family on a fishing trip. Hello and welcome to episode number 79 of the NJ Multi-Species Podcast. I am your host, Joe Santiago. As always, my partner, Chris Pereira.
Cheers.
Tonight, our host is Peter Clarke, episode number 2 of him. He was originally on episode 70. You could check that out. Also, if you're looking for the weekly hunting report of the rut with Stinky Steve from Signal 11, it is at the end of the video. If you don't like fishing, you could fast forward right to the hunting report. Chris, what do we have going on this week?
What do we have going on this week? I mean, I got out with Katie and I got out with Yellow Dog Paddle finally. Did you?
How was it?
I mean, it was a tough day, to be honest. But
is this the first negative Mike Herman report I'm ever hearing about?
You know what? It almost I not really, because we caught fish.
So we still can't even give him a negative one?
No, not really. But the goal was.
I got to go with him because if I go with him, it'll suck.
Dude, everything you've been doing has sucked for you.
Bad.
Like just
Bad.
For you. You have to go with him just yourself, though. Because if you bring anyone else, they'll do fine.
The hybrid meet and greet was not good. Well, it wasn't good for Luke either. For some reason, it was only Dwayne. Dwayne caught 2 giant hybrids. He caught a giant channel catfish.
Let me tell you something about Dwayne, all right? When you fish with Dwayne on his boat, he rigs everything so that he's successful. And you wonder what the hell's going on. I don't know.
I had 2 rods off the back of the boat. Luke had a rod on the same side as one of mine, and Dwayne had 2 rods on his side, and every fish was on Dwayne's rods. I'm like, what's going on here?
Did he have the bait pre-cut for you already ready to go?
Yes, he did.
So he probably rubbed some schmegma on his, or
So
he gave you the bad pieces.
That was after I went out with Mac and everyone caught walleye on the boat except me. So I'm 2 skunks in a row now.
But every picture I see of you, you're asleep.
Well, eventually I get too cold and give up. Yeah.
Like you're worse than Max.
Well, that's actually the second year in a row. The past 2 hybrid meet and greets, you could see me just sleeping on the floor of the boat.
I have a picture from us on your boat, and you're asleep on the floor, on the bottom of the floor.
Can you pop those up side by side?
God, you really got to make me find those pictures.
No. I have a fit. Chris Lito, the Gambler continues to do very well for tuna. They are back to running far out, all the way to the Hudson Canyon, but they are doing very good. They had a giant swordfish last week come up, which was an extra surprise. Let me see, yellow dog paddle.
Now the weather kind of took a turn for the worse out there on the tuna grounds, because I know I was supposed to go out with my buddy, and we had to stay inshore and kind of hunt those, like they call them the ghosts, those bluefin tuna.
Yeah, the ghosts
that are closer in the ghosts, which we had no luck. We did see them at one point, but like just like they say, just like you hear. You see them for a second, and you think like, all right, they're in the area. We're fishing for them now, and they're gone. You never see them again. Like they could be.
The video. I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but if you ever see the video of Scotty Sevens hook the ghost bluefin tuna, it's awesome.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. And he's by himself, and it's insane.
And he takes some nice videos. Like it's pretty cool. It's pretty insane.
Freshwater fishing wise, we still continue to have no water. The rivers are bone dry. Spruce Run still is empty. You basically can't get a boat off the trailer. Round Valley,
I mean, you can.
is at, I think,
you can, but
you can. It depends on what kind of boat it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, if you have like a big boat, don't even bother with Spruce Run currently. Round Valley, the drawdown. I don't know where it is. I had it somewhere.
Well, I don't know where the drawdown is either, but the fishing is still good.
Round Valley's down 3 feet.
Okay. Well, it hasn't affected the fishing still.
It says Spruce Run is unlaunchable. It says water is down 35 feet unlaunchable.
Really? All right.
That's what he says. 6 feet down Round Valley.
Well, he's got a pretty big boat, though. He's saying you can't launch any kind of trailer boat, even a small one.
35 feet down's a lot. I wouldn't go there if you're going from far away. I'd look at it first.
Sounds like car top launch heaven.
Yeah, that's what you're looking at. The fishing on Round Valley continues to be really good. That's pretty much like the best game in town right now. You can still get the chicken liver bite on Lake Hopatcong, but it's hard to find. You really have to kind of wait a long time, I guess, for them to just come through. They just don't seem to be in schools. They're just like passing like wolf packs.
That's the weirdest part to me. Like, you guys caught 2 big fish, but that was it.
2 big fish. That was when I say I got skunked, both of those trips, I didn't. I caught smallmouth. I just didn't catch the target. Caught some white perch. There was other action. Mackin was out there. Mackin came out with the slip bobbers on the pontoon boat, actually like 40 yards away from us, and then we saw Donald Trump in the canoe.
That's funny.
We posted that video. That was hilarious, and he wore that all day. That costume was on him in that canoe all day. I was freezing, and this guy's in a suit in a canoe. I'm like, Jesus Christ, ice batter.
I was going to say, does he not want us to say who it was?
I mean, I don't know. Too late now. But yeah, the Mackin had one night last week where the water temperature was 69 degrees. He went out after sunset and he had like 11 to 15 walleyes. Redid the exact same thing a few nights later, and it was 57-degree water temperature and only boated 4 fish. So we continue to not get the stable fall temp that we want. It keeps bouncing back and forth. I think this week is going to warm up again for another 2 days. So freshwater is going to just continue to be weird for a little while, and we really need rain bad.
Yeah. Hey, can I, you kind of cut me off when I was talking about my trip with Yellow Dog Pal. Can I get back on it?
Sure.
Anyway, what I was going to say was our goal was still trying to get Katie that one last species for the Skillful Angler Grandmaster achievement, right? Because you need 10 different species. She's got 9. She's pregnant. She can't fish like we fish. Like, she can't hike 30 miles through the woods to like my favorite trout spot. Anyway, so we went out with the yellow dog paddle, try to get a salmon. We didn't catch a salmon. So that was when you asked, can I finally say that Mike had a bad trip? We didn't get the target species, but we caught a bunch of lake trout. So was it a good day of fishing? Yes. Was it was the bite on fire? No, definitely not. Like, we had to work our asses off for those lake trout.
After the podcast is over, tell me like what he does. Does he do different stuff than I do?
Well, I will say this. When it comes to trolling, right? Like, I don't know what you would think is the most important aspect of someone who's trolling, but for me, it's just this, like, the most important part of it is having this, like, segmented, methodical approach to it, right? Where, like, everything's in order, everything's done exactly the way you want it to be to get what you want done. Whatever the depth is, whatever the speed is, whatever you want everything to be, it's like this methodical, like, approach that like you have confidence in that it's covering all the bases. And
meticulous.
Yeah. And I've never seen anyone quite as, like, with that attention to detail as Mike. I mean, he, everything had to be just so. I mean, I'm talking like if one of the boards like slid out of position, like he knew something was wrong. He's like, oh, there's a leaf on that or something, like, and he'd have to fix it. Like, everything had to be running just so at all times. And like, you had a confidence that if there was going to be fish caught, like, you were going to catch them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, well, I kind of do that with the duct tape and the markers and everything's marked. And yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand.
No, don't compare yourself to him.
I'm not. He has a much bigger boat and more time than I do, and I suck anyway. All right, I think our guest is ready. Peter Clarke. I think we have him ready to come in.
All right, let's get him in here.
I was out last week with Eddie Mackin, Max, and Fishy Chicky, Alexis. We went on a little sunset walleye fishing. Everyone did really good on the boat, except me. I posted some videos, but Eddie passed out secret lures to everyone that he didn't give me one. So I do. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not going to say the name of the lure, but all three.
If he really did that, he's my hero.
He really did. Well, here, I'll tell you what really happened. He passed everyone out a lure, one of these lures that's discontinued. And I was going to ask for one eventually because I was getting desperate. And then Max casted one of his and broke the lip off it. Broke it, shattered it, lure destroyed. So at the point that I saw Mackin's lure got destroyed by Max, I just didn't want to ask for one. So it was over. But yeah, the walleye bite, it was pretty decent. If you're looking to catch some walleye, didn't have to really stay up too late. It's a perfect 4-hour window, kind of from like sunset to, not 9, 10-ish. Now the sunset's even earlier, so you're off the lake. It's just, it's nice to be off the lake that early and not have to not have to stay up all night, and you're actually catching some decent fish during that time frame. So call Mackin's Rippin' Lips Fishing Trips today. Okay, so we have tonight's guest, Mr. Peter Clarke is back. You could check out episode 70, where we already did part 1 with Peter Clarke. He works for NJ Fish and Wildlife for the Artificial Reef program. We felt it was a very interesting topic. We didn't get enough time to talk to you, Pete, and here we are again. A little more to talk about where all the money comes to pay for this structure, because me and Chris love bottom fishing so much. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Pete. You got a hell of a sunburn under your eyes there.
I've been spending an awful lot of time chasing around striped bass the last couple of weeks. So yeah.
I was going to ask you to take your mask off, your Zorro mask off.
Yeah, look at that. Whew. Put on some sunburn.
Hey, that means you're out there, hopefully enjoying yourself. But yeah, like Joe said, we didn't really have enough time last time to get into everything, get into all the details, and we've talked since, and we decided it'd be a good idea to have you come back on and talk a little bit more. And one of the main things and how we'll get started here is we didn't really get into how the artificial reef program is funded, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not I think you said last time it doesn't really get any money from the taxes we pay on fishing equipment and stuff when we buy stuff at the tackle shop. So really the only thing I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was donations was really the only way that you got funding for this artificial reef program.
Yeah, we call it sponsorship, right? So, there's a thing called the Wallop Bro Fund. It's also part of the Dingell-Johnson legislation that was passed in the federal government years and years and years ago. And the way that this works is, for instance, if you go to a tackle shop and you buy fishing lures and tackle, etc., there's a tax that's associated with that purchase, and that tax goes to the federal government, and then the federal government then sends that money or portions of those dollars back to the state. So the state of New Jersey, like most coastal states, gets a percentage of those dollars in the form of the sport fish restoration funds. And that's what the state of New Jersey uses for the New Jersey Artificial Reef Program.
Now, how do they distinguish how much you get back? Because we don't get back 100% of the taxes that go into this program back into our New Jersey's artificial reef program, right?
Well, that's true, right? So there's a formula that dictates how much money goes back to each state. Right now, New Jersey gets the base amount of dollars back from this funding source. Where I don't have the table in front of me. It is available. It's called the Sport Fish Restoration Fund, and you can Google it and you can see exactly where we fall. But to give you perspective here, New Jersey ranks somewhere in the top 3 to 5 over the past 20 something years, I would say, in the number of anglers that utilize the marine environment. And our funding, our level of funding is somewhere in that, like, the bottom probably 25% of all coastal states, regardless of their size, right? So, New Jersey is the number of anglers that we have is somewhere with Florida, North Carolina. We have you guys know, you're out on the water. We have an immense number of anglers.
He's basically saying it's 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag with not enough money for it.
I mean, well, yeah, basically so we're top of the tier of the amount of anglers we have and fishing pressure and all that stuff. But then we're bottom of the barrel with what we get back from the federal government as far as funding for programs like the Artificial Reef Program. Is that accurate?
Correct. That is accurate. Yeah. Yep.
So and that's got to piss people off. I mean, it's annoying just to say it. So, like, why does that happen?
Well, so that formula is based off of the number of fishing licenses that the state of New Jersey sells, right? So if, take the state of Delaware sells a fishing license for X number of dollars and the state of New Jersey doesn't, well, then a small state like the state of Delaware or even Pennsylvania would get a higher percentage of dollars than a state that doesn't have a license for sale, right? Now, if New Jersey had a saltwater fishing license, that would, certainly take care of one component of that. But, then there's also, what do you do with those dollars? What do you do with those revenue, that revenue stream? And that's, so that's the second part of this, is how is that money spent?
Do most of the other states on the East Coast have a saltwater license? I know New York does.
Yeah.
No, New York does not.
New York doesn't?
Not since this year. You get we're not talking about the free saltwater registry.
No, I thought
Correct.
New York had one you had to pay for.
I believe they do.
They do?
I really thought they did.
Was this new this year?
No.
Well, this is the first year that I didn't get one. And
a couple years, maybe 3 or 4.
I could have sworn up to last year I was registering for a free saltwater registry for both New York and New Jersey.
You're a poacher.
Well, if I wasn't receiving the New York saltwater registry, then I wasn't fishing. I would have noticed. So maybe it's been 2 years since I've gotten it and fished over. I haven't fished over there in a long time.
Well, a registry is different than a license, right? New Jersey has a registry. A registry, like you said, is free.
That does nothing for this.
No. So a registry is free. So there's no income, right? Which would then be used as in kind. So this would be an example of the state, whatever state, charging for a license and then having a pot of money to use towards a resource. In which case, if a state had a pot of money to use towards a resource, the federal aid would then add on top of that, right? In kind dollars. Now I'm Googling whether recreational marine fishing. Oh, yeah. So at one point, there was a New York license. Again, license would indicate that you pay for it. But I just Googled this and it says recreational marine fishing registry for New York. So
I was right. Joe was wrong again. Anyway,
sorry,
all right. So just to be clear, so anyone's listening, states like New York, New Jersey, whatever other states that have a saltwater registry, that's used for some other purposes, right? Whatever, maybe they're monitoring, how many. I'm sure they use it in the equations to screw us on regulations of fish to keep and stuff like that. But
yeah, I can't speak to that, Chris. Look, here's what New Jersey does with it. So if we have a list of registered participants, we can then disseminate information out to those registrants, right? So we can send emails and say, this is what, for instance, the new summer flounder regulations are, and this is where we're going with the black sea bass, or do you want to participate in a survey or things like that, right? If I'm, let's say, out on a jetty and fishing, I should have that registration. But because it's free, I guess I could get it at any point in time during my my activity, right? I should have it before.
You see an officer pulling into the parking lot and you go on your phone and
the argument you always hear over this topic is the same thing. As soon as you bring up the topic, the response is, well, they stock the freshwater.
Yeah.
And they do not stock the saltwater, so that's why we're paying for a license, and they don't want to pay for a saltwater one.
Right.
But, I mean, if the saltwater fishing license could be used correctly and actually improve the fishing structure and the fish, it could be worth it, no?
Well, you know what, Joe? I think look, there's several things that you could do with an income source from a saltwater fishing license. You could collect better data, right? We always think of the things that you always hear are a problem, right? We don't have any good data. Nobody knows what's really going on, et cetera, right? So that could be a possible way to spend that money. Another one could be opportunity and access to the resource. Boat ramps, fishing piers, education, or habitat development, right? That's sort of where this conversation is. It's in that development of the habitat, artificial reefs. So, I wouldn't say that if everybody listening to this podcast is like, oh, I'm in for a recreational license and it's going to go, all of it's going to go to the artificial reef program. I don't think that's a realistic goal, but I think that it's a real possibility that increased revenue to the Marine Resources Administration through a saltwater license is a, it's an avenue. And there's other avenues, right? We could go through, like, so how do you bring more funding to the administration? Another avenue would be through legislation. Call your congressman, your senator, and say the marine fisheries needs more dollars to do X, Y, and Z, and those things would, those dollars would cover the things that I mentioned, or potentially could.
Can I just ask too? When someone gets in trouble, like a poacher, or someone gets caught without a license, and they get hit with all these fines and stuff by a conservation officer. Does any of that money, that like the fine money and stuff, go back into the fund, or is that totally not involved?
No, that's actually a good question, Joe. So one of the things that I haven't brought up is this all-encompassing Marine Resources Administration and law enforcement. So I'd be going out on a limb if I told you exactly where every dollar went through a fine. But my understanding is that some of that goes back to administration fees, other dollars or percentages of it go back into law enforcement and into funding that part of the program. But that's a huge part of what we're talking about, and is the enforcement of our regulations and making sure that people are following the rules and giving a presence, right? We all know that a presence, when we drive down the parkway and we think, well, there's going to be a cop sitting on the side of the road. If I'm doing 90 miles an hour, there's a chance of me getting pulled over and getting a ticket. Well, that presence keeps us from, it makes us take a second thought, right? Like, maybe I shouldn't be doing 90. Maybe I should be somewhere around the speed limit. Same thing with our enforcement guys. They are, we're understaffed. Those guys are severely understaffed. Think of how many inlets and rivers and, harbors and bays that they've got to cover. And you've got, a fractional amount of enforcement guys doing it all. So look, and that sort of conversation, the devil's always in the details, right? So you've got to figure those details out before you start passing legislation or licensing or et cetera to figure out what you're going to do with those dollars.
I'm kind of going to play devil's advocate a little bit here, but only because I feel like most of the people listening to this and hear the words saltwater license that I have to pay for are going to think somewhere along these lines where they're going to say, oh, I've never had to pay for a license before. I don't want to pay for this. Is a terrible idea because I don't trust the government. I don't trust them to use the money that we're going to be spending on this license for what it's supposed to be used for. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, so to ease that thought, because a lot of guys are going to have that thought process, there obviously has to be some kind of very concrete layout of, designating 100% of these funds from the saltwater license, however it's broken down, but it's all going to have to be like concrete set in stone.
Yeah. So, I think what you're asking about, Chris, is what and maybe I'm wrong, but a dedicated account. We hear that throughout these types of conversations. How do we make sure that a saltwater license dollars go back into the marine fisheries or saltwater, management aspect of things and aren't used to pave a road or whatever, right? Go into a general account for the state. So The answer is that, over time, we've demonstrated that the state has demonstrated that we can do these dedicated accounts. I know that we have a dedicated account right now for the artificial reef program in particularly, and I'm not saying that that's exactly what these dollars would go into, because it isn't. It would have to be used for a multitude of things. But the direction of that money and the way that it's used, I would imagine that, pie in the sky, right? Like a wish list. Like if we had added revenue, regardless of how it came to us being the Marine Resources Administration, if we had a committee that was able to, and again, we have committees for everything, right? If we're setting summer flounder regs or striped bass regulations, we have a committee that meets regularly to discuss these management techniques. So I would imagine that if we had a revenue stream like this that had flexibility on how dollars were spent, a committee would be formed and would exist that would help direct those funds. So this year we need dollars. We don't have any boat ramps, or the boat ramps we have are in disrepair. We're going to put dollars to that. Or, we really need a fishing pier up in Keensburg. Maybe they already have one. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? So like,
you literally named like the only place that does have one.
Everywhere else needs one,
right? Keensburg and Longport. So
can I just ask this though before I lose it, because now this is getting inside my head, okay? Because I got to buy a hunting license for deer. You guys don't stock deer. There's too many deer, and you guys need me to kill the deer almost as a favor.
Well, not him. You're saying he.
Not him in general, but same place. And I got to buy 19 licenses to do you guys a favor by killing deer. Now I don't need a license to hunt salt. So now I'm throwing out their argument about stocking fish because the hunting license negates that.
Well, and I'll add to that. Obviously we all buy a freshwater license. And I don't know the breakdown of where the funds are used, but I believe a very large portion of that is used for the stocking program, which anyone who fishes in New Jersey freshwater knows that the stocking program is a huge success. I mean, New Jersey has one of the best freshwater fisheries in the country, in my opinion. I don't know how you could argue it variety-wise. And the quality is good too. I mean, you're not going to catch like a world record muskie or walleye or anything like that, but you're going to get decent quality all around, And so, like you mentioned before, there is proof out there that, funds from buying a license can be used properly to make, make an awesome program in the stocking program freshwater. So for a saltwater license, I would hope if it was done the right way, I would imagine that it could be used not for stocking, obviously, but for managing the fishery in a way that would improve the stocks tremendously and improve the fishing.
I have faith that would occur. Again, I think you've got to outline those types of things before you implement any kind of a program and make sure that it is what you want it to look like at the end. And that's important because, of course, we don't want to implement something like a license, something that people would view as a tax, right?
Yeah.
If I'm voting to get myself taxed, I'd like to know what the money's going to go towards. So
exactly.
Yeah,
I see this more, Joe. I don't know if you back like it's almost like joining the Round Valley Trout Association, right? If you like to fish that lake, you pay a membership for Round Valley Trout Association. It's a low fee, $25, whatever it is. I would imagine a saltwater license would be similar to a freshwater license, probably talking somewhere between, I don't know, $25 and $35, maybe 40 at the most. I have no idea, but it's
But now I just don't understand why there isn't one. Like, especially in this state that likes to charge you for anything. You can't even get a bag at Quick Check unless you pay 10 cents for it. And there's no licensed saltwater hunt, saltwater fish. How? Like, what happened? Did they miss this? Like, what? It's got to be a mistake.
I bet you because we'd be up in arms about it unless they could like 100% prove to us that it was going to be used for the marine fisheries, and like those those backroom guys couldn't be pocketing any of it or whatever.
So, Peter, what would you do with all this extra money you have from the extra from the license? Because you already have way too many sea bass here. I mean, you're going to keep just bringing sea bass in, or what? Like, you're going to have...
Yeah, why not? We can go from 230% to 330% stock sea
Is this
bass.
the best sea bass fishing place on earth, New Jersey?
Oh man, on Earth, I've heard. I have friends up in Massachusetts that say that they've got some insane sea bassing up there. So I think it's pretty darn good, though. I'll be honest with you.
Does New Jersey generate a lot of tourism money from fishing?
Insane amounts of tourism dollars.
Really?
Right. So oh my God, man. Think about I was out fishing today and I fish out of Shark River. I drive by the Belmar Marine Basin on my way to the boat. When I go fishing, it's packed. The parking lot's packed. The gas stations are packed. All 20 Wawas on the way are getting used. Hotels are being utilized. So yeah, there's a lot of, we're talking about, isn't it? It's November. It's like, people are coming to this area to fish. Straight bass fishing right now is incredible, right? Yeah. You talked about sea bassing, so a lot of tourism dollars are, and I'm not talking about traditional tourism where, it's a family of 5 coming down to Seaside to go sit on the beach, but tourism takes many different forms where you've got a car full of 5 guys coming from Pennsylvania to come fish for a day or 2 days in New Jersey because the fishing is incredible, right? So we definitely fishing in.
But in the state of New Jersey, the number of saltwater fishermen dwarfs freshwater.
Oh gosh, Joe, I don't know.
I mean, I would have to just imagine
I'd probably say it probably does, but I have no numbers to back that up.
So, and again, these are just sort of throwing numbers out there. I've heard, again, we have a registry, right? We think that registry number is a fraction of what is actually occurring, but our registry numbers are around 300,000, 350,000 for saltwater registry. We think that's probably representing some fraction of what's totally, completely, totally occurring. I don't know what the freshwater. Maybe you guys know how many freshwater licenses.
I don't.
Yeah. I've heard the number before, but I can't recall it. I mean, but if I had to guess,
it's probably not more than that.
No, I don't. If I had to guess, just from just an educated guess of fishing in the state for 16, 17 years, I'd say there's probably more people saltwater fishing than freshwater fishing. Generally speaking, I think a big portion of guys do both, at least to some extent.
Probably.
But I also wanted to bring up, just so everyone knows, this whole buying a saltwater fishing license, and the money being used to manage the fisheries in ways other than the typical stocking freshwater fish or freshwater license, that's not a new thing. That's not a new idea. Like Florida is the biggest place that comes to mind because I've fished down there with my buddy, and you have to buy a saltwater fishing license. And the fisheries down there, like Joe, have you ever been down there? Or Pete?
Yeah.
The fishing down there, I'm talking about, let's say you don't have a boat, if you don't have a boat in New
Yeah.
Jersey, like the places you got fish, you're with a bunch of other guys, or you're like sneaking around in the dark trying to get to like a decent spot and stuff. Down in Florida, they've built places for you to fish. Like you can fish under the bridges on like piers, concrete piers that they've built as part of the bridge. Like not thrown in there like, oh, okay, here's something you could fish off these sticks that we can put here. Like they built there's really nice places to fish everywhere. And they take care of the ramps and stuff. And like, it's a huge difference from
angler access, right? I mean,
right.
It is insane. You go down to like the Florida Keys, and like you said, all those bridges, you just, you pull off onto the side of the bridge, you walk down, and you're fishing under the bridge spans. So some fantastic fishing down there.
Yeah, it's like fishing in New Jersey. I mean, to me, it's like I don't even want to fish from the shore because one, the spots that are good are limited. You're there's tons of people always fishing. It seems like in the good spots. There's what was I going to say? You feel like you're going to get in trouble everywhere you go in New Jersey. You're like, oh, am I allowed to fish here? Am I going to get in trouble here? There's no fishing sign over there, but it's not over there. There's a fence, but there's a hole in it. Maybe I can go through on that side. Like in Florida, yeah, there's places that you can't fish that are posted and stuff, but there's so many very nice places that they have built purposely. I'm assuming using this money because where else would it come from? And they're managing these access points and these fishing points, the boat ramps, and they're taking care of their reef structures. I'm sure. I don't know all the details, but it's a huge difference from there to here. And I'm not talking about the species of fish. I'm just talking about like the fishing access and spots.
Yeah, it is vastly different here than there. And I think you're probably onto something, Chris. Again, I don't want to speak to where those dollars would go, but that's a great example of where Florida has spent some of their money and what they do, right? How they provide that access to their stakeholders for that resource.
Yeah. And I remember when I went down there to fish with, I got a couple friends down there. First time I went down there to fish in Saltwater, and he said, oh, you got your license, right? And I was like, oh, no, I forgot. Well, I got to sign up for a free registry, like for here. I didn't know. He's like, oh, no, you got to buy a fishing license. I'm like, I thought we were going to Saltwater. He's like, no, we are, but you got to do it. And I was confused. And I was like pissed off. I'm like, what? I got to pay for a saltwater fishing license? Like, what the hell? I'm like, what, do they stock fish? He's like, no, they just. And then I saw, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, this is nice as hell. I'm like, are all the, not all the spots are as nice as some of them, but I just saw a couple of them and I'm like, there's nothing like this in New Jersey, really. I mean, it's just totally different.
Yeah.
You can just tell a lot of money is coming into that. And, I guess someone could argue, well, they're bringing in more money with it, but I don't know if that's true. Look at the fisheries. We have a world-class striper fishery.
Yeah.
Sea bass is great. Flukes, there's better places to fluke, but it's not bad.
Right.
I mean, I've heard legends that there's sunken lobster boats out there that have state record tog trapped inside the lobster traps, and everyone hooks them and then they break them right off. Is that true?
I don't know. I like that legend though. The urban legend of the lobster boats.
Wasn't Pete the one that told you that story? Or no, that was the tanks.
Frank.
That was the tanks.
Tanks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yep. Frank Mahalik told you the story of the other one.
Oh.
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, you guys talked to Frank?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he came on for an episode last year during tog season.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Frank's a good guy. He would know if there's sunken lobster boats full of traps and togs, though.
He did tell us. We got to look back that he did say something about that. They kept breaking the fish off, and then they sent a scuba diver down. It was like a 24-pound tog in a lobster trap.
It swam. He said it swam. It probably swam into the lobster pot when it was small enough to fit, but there was so much food in there it never left, and now it's too big to go out. but it's still got plenty of food in there. And every once in a while, if you hook it, you can't catch it because it's just stuck in the lobster pot. The diver's got to go down there and cut a hole in the thing for.
Yeah, you got to cut the trap apart.
Pete, do you have anything else you want to touch on before we let you go?
No, man. I appreciate. The reef program is near and dear to my heart. I spend a lot of time on our reefs. I think a lot of guys really do. And one of the issues that we're really facing with the reef program is a constant source of funding rather than having this like piecemeal trying to find dollars. It would be great to have a constant source, something where we could have a maintenance program and we knew guaranteed every year we were going to have X number of dollars going towards, so many reefs throughout the state. I think that's really, as far as the reef program goes, it's one of the things that we're really missing. So,
I just want to say too, I've been bottom fishing saltwater in New Jersey my whole life. It's one of my favorite things to do. And until you came on this podcast, I never even thought about this and how the bottom structure got there. And that you guys actually need money to make this happen. I never knew about any of this. So if you're watching and you saltwater bottom fish New Jersey, these are the guys right here that literally build the structures that you're fishing on every weekend. So this is really, really important. And maybe a saltwater fishing license isn't that bad of an idea if it could improve some of this stuff. But Peter, I have to thank you so much for, taking the time to come on here again. We really appreciate it. You could always come back again if you want.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think it's just great to have a guy like you come on here. You're part of the government program, right? But you're not government, the government as like people would think, oh, where's my money going? How's it being used? Like you're an angler and you're also working on these programs for, like, you're one of us. I think I said it last time too. Like that's huge to me because I'm the first guy. If I'd never spoken to you before and I knew nothing about this program and someone said to me, oh yeah, they're going to make us buy a saltwater fishing license next year for $35. I'm the first guy to be like, oh, screw that, screw them. I'm not like, this is bullshit. But once a guy like you comes out, talks to people, one of us, just another angler too, and you really get the whole picture, and then you realize like, I can't, I don't buy 2 lures and instead I pay for a saltwater fishing license if you want to break it down like that. And now that money is being used to improve the fishery as a whole. I mean, it's a no-brainer really when you think about it, but the knee-jerk reaction from a lot of guys,
we're going to get a lot of lashback for this.
Huh?
We're going to get a lot of lashback for this.
Yeah, but I can back it up now because I have the information and I understand. I can make people understand it too.
I'm comparing it to deer hunting now because there's more deer than there are saltwater fish.
Now Joe's pissed off because he thinks the state should be paying him to kill the deer. He shouldn't have to pay for it.
If we stopped hunting, they'd have a major problem. They need us to hunt.
You're not wrong.
All right, Peter, I'm sorry for us rambling. Thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on again. But I will, what are you going to do with the dollars if something like this? So, yeah, I would say that.
All right. Guys, if you're listening, leave us some feedback. What are your thoughts on a saltwater fishing license coming to New Jersey? Peter, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
You too, man. Great talking to you.
Bye. You too. Bye.
NJFishing.com and Jerry Zagorski coming up now on almost 28 years as the #1 resource in freshwater and saltwater fishing in New Jersey. Free to register for everyone. Also, our Christmas party is coming up. It's going to be at the Sterling Elks Lodge. We are working on the catering menu for the party. If you were at the party last year, this one's going to be much bigger. It's a much bigger venue, much bigger food, much bigger everything. You're going to have to be a member of NJ Fishing to go to that party. It's free to sign up. Just email Jerry, tell him what you'd like your screen name to be, and you're in. That gives you access to a message board of saltwater and freshwater that goes back longer than you're able to read it. So check out njfishing.com today. And if you're going to join us for the njfishing.com Merry Mayhem Christmas party, you're going to have to go to njfishing.com and register. All right, so that was pretty interesting from Peter Clarke. I'd really like to hear the feedback from the viewers on this one, a saltwater fishing license. What do you think?
Yeah.
Would you be opposed to it?
I mean, you're going to get a lot of reasons why not. But I feel like I could debate again. And normally I'd be taking their side, but I feel like I'd debate and try to convince them why it is a great idea, actually.
I think I really have a good point with deer hunting because, like I said, they don't stock deer. They want me to kill unlimited amounts of them, and they charge me to do it 3 times a year. I got to buy 3 licenses. And then saltwater fishing, there's nothing. Like, these guys need money to make shit better. Whatever. We will be back next week with Toggy Time jigs. They are the best blackfish jigs we've ever used. They're actually now the only ones we'll use. Eddie from Toggy Time, we've been waiting to have him on for a while. So we're going to talk blackfishing next episode. It is the season for that. So we will be back next week with Toggy Time jigs. See everyone next week.
Suffer for the fish. There you go. I didn't forget.
Okay, so we have Stinky Steve from Signal 11 here. We are coming up on a very, very prime time of the rut here in New Jersey, and we have the Signal 11 deer hunting report.
What's going on,
Steve, what is going on right now?
How's it going, guys? This is interesting because to me it was, we talked last week, and I wasn't realizing that how many days were going to pass. Obviously, I knew how many days, but I didn't realize when it was going to air. So here we are on the 4th of November, and things have changed drastically from what I personally have seen from the last time we spoke, which was last Monday. So big difference. Today I was out, or I should say this afternoon, I was out with my buddy Kevin, a guy that I've been hunting with for years, and we ended up getting in 2 stands. We were probably, as a crow would fly, 200 yards apart, obviously hardwoods and hollers and stuff between us. But he had no action. I had tons of action. So tonight was the first night that I actually, with my own eyes, witnessed chasing, full speed chasing. While I had 6 does in front of me, they came chasing at another set of deer, buck and a doe. He was chasing her out of a swamp full tilt up the side of a hill all over the place, probably about 75 yards from me, but it was pretty cool to watch. I couldn't really video it or anything, because otherwise I would have blew the setup I had with the deer in front of me, which I was still in hopes that that they would, another buck or even that buck would end up coming across to these does, which didn't happen, and I ended up having to make a little noise to get them to shoo away so I could get out of there. So we've seen drastic difference between the last time we spoke and tonight.
And I definitely have seen a major uptick in big dead bucks in the news feed with tramp stamp bottles everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's...
would you say tramp stamps the ticket right now for the next week? I mean, it seems like that's what everybody's getting them on.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of humbling, to be honest with you, because, I mean... The fact of the matter is that for all the years that I've been doing what I do, really nothing has changed. So as crazy as that sounds to me, it might not sound crazy to you guys, but I mean, literally around 2006, I played around with some, as a guy that hunted with scents anyway, I played around with some different ingredients and came up with some basic formulas, which really to this day are exactly the same. I mean, the only thing that has changed over the years is the base, which is now either natural or synthetic. So yeah, Joe's 100% right. I mean, there's nothing. I was going to write a couple notes down, which I normally don't do, but there's no way I could tell anybody to use anything else, because the stores tell the bigger tale because they see the local people coming in and out. Last week I spoke about North Jersey. Well, now we got some major deer went down in South Jersey too. So it's really throughout the state. And I still think we're 2 or 3 days away from the big boys really chasing, where you could literally be sitting on a bucket or on a rock wall. If you ground hunt and I've had it happen where I've had deer bucks run full tilt straight at me, never see me, stop within 15, 20 yards, look left and right, and I've shot them dead on. I mean, and that's pure luck, being in the right place at the right time. That has nothing to do with scent. It's the time of year where you could be in the woods doing anything, but you have to be in the woods. That's the key.
And we'll be there tomorrow morning. We're going. We'll be there with Tramp Stamp.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, everybody always goes with Halloween. I always say Halloween. Everybody says Halloween on. You got to be in the woods for the next 2 weeks to maybe even a little longer. But right now, it's definitely ramped up. My scrapes got hit harder than they ever got hit the last 2 days. And I think I was telling Joe or Chris, for the first time in all the years I've been using trail cameras since, we used to use a string and a little watch in it, or just the string across the trail to figure out which way the deer were going. The watch just let us know what time they went through. But ever since we had trail cams, they weren't even affordable in the beginning. I've been using them for the first time. Last week, I got a picture of a buck mounting a doe in front of my cellular trail cam, which probably misses more pictures than it takes. But that I've seen the pictures, but I've never actually got one. So we may have to splice that in.
This is the first season you've used trail cams for real?
No, it's the first time he's ever caught that on camera.
Oh, I'm like, what?
I've never caught that on camera.
Steve's been fishing with a string attached to a watch since.
Well, that is the original trail camera.
That was our trail camera.
It was like a stopwatch.
I thought he was using it last year.
Line.
No.
Chris, listen to this real quick, because I saw this thing at a flea market. It's like a stopwatch with fishing line in it, and you set the stopwatch and then set the line across the trees. And when the line gets snapped or knocked down, it stops the clock. Yeah. So when they used to go back and check the clock, they knew exactly what time the deer crossed. That's the original trail camera.
And which way it was going from which way the line was.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
They are cool.
Yeah. I gotta say, Steve, real quick, just because and Joe mentioned this to me earlier today, like there's still guys out there that, we're not allowed to use the natural stuff in New Jersey, obviously. And there's still a lot of guys that don't believe the synthetic stuff works or is worth it. And I mean, Joe set up a scrape yesterday, and the way he described it to me, it sounded like he just kind of gave up and threw your synthetic scrape nuggets on the ground and just picked some leaves off to the side and threw some scrape nuggets in and just left.
Yes.
And so he didn't even do it right.
There's not even a tree there. It's just a scrape.
It's just in the middle of nowhere. And he put the cameras pointed at it. And by the time, like later that night, there was 2 bucks messing around on it already.
Yeah, fighting within 7 hours. And that's on the synthetic. Chris, we could probably pop the picture up if we want here. But yeah, it was within 8 hours. We'll show the 2 bucks fighting over my scrape. That's just, don't copy that scrape, because that's not good.
That's what not to do, but it still worked.
What not to do, but still works anyway.
And I put Steve's picture with the buck banging the doe.
And you could pop that up. Yeah. I put the scrape nuggets in the corn too. So they're eating it. So they're eating them. So.
Yeah. He just threw it all down there. It still worked.
I sprayed everything. I sprayed Tramp Stamp on trees. It's like an arsenal of Signal 11. So tomorrow morning, we're hoping for the best. And then the wicks are going out.
That's the Santiago effect.
You got to be careful putting those wicks out, Steve, because one will come up real fast once you start hanging those things.
Yeah, hang them and get up in your tree quick.
Real quick.
No, but that's great. Great to hear that you're getting the action.
Well, we're going to find out tomorrow. Steve, thank you so much, as usual, for doing this weekly hunting report. Hopefully we'll see Steve again next week, see what stage of the rut we're in. And thank you so much for coming on.
Definitely
Yeah.
sounds good. Enjoy your time out there, guys. Good luck to you.
We'll let
Thank
you
you.
know. We hope.
You too. Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully we have a nice update for you
Good. Take care.
later.
Later, Steve.